Hello, Love is Blind lovers. Listen, sorry I'm a little late on this recap. I thought I already did it, but wow, episode 7 was sleeping on me. Okay, so we've got so much to talk about. First of all, why is Izzy such a prick? I really did not like the way that he spoke to Johnny in their little one-on-one conversation. And then I've got other complaints about him, which we will get to. But of course, we have to kick off the episode with the love triangle between Uche, Aaliyah, and Lydia. So we finished off episode 6 with Uche and Aaliyah meeting up for lunch. And so then he tells his story about what it was like dating Lydia. And he basically portrays her as a full-blown stalking psycho. And it's a lot, okay? I don't know if I believe him 100%. I think that he is exaggerating some things or skewing some things or purposely omitting some things as well. Because mind you, he never said a single thing negative about himself, and he never said a single thing positive about Lydia. Right. So to me, that already is like, all right, let me take you with a grain of salt because you are obviously very interested in protecting your image and trashing hers. So he says that Lydia was invading his privacy when they were dating. She kept calling, texting, and reaching out after he dumped her. And so for whatever reason, with all of that, he decided to take her back. But then other people, like I guess girls, would reach out to him and be like, look, Lydia's stalking my Instagram. She's looking at my stories. Listen, that is nothing new, okay? That happens. Like, first of all, Lydia, baby, mamacita, you need to have a burner account if you're going to be creeping people on Instagram. Get you a Finsta. I've got a Finsta when I want to do some stalking. So I'm not going to judge her for taking a look at the people that you hang around with and whatnot. I do the same thing. So absolutely not. The only thing I'm judging her for is not having a damn burner account. So hopefully she has one now. So I do want to say though that he said that he took her back after all this. He's like, oh, like she was going through a hard time and I'm a hero, so I had to go and take her back. Like, no, just admit you love drama. You just love toxicity and stuff, and that's why you decided to take her back. And you love that she's fawning over you and whatnot. And so he shares a story about how she once was driving by his house and took a picture of his driveway captioned "I see you." And he said that that was really, really scary to him. Like it was like giving stalker. And so he decided to stop talking to her again, which to me is understandable. If a guy did that to me, I would be super duper scared, like, you know, personal safety and everything. So I would stop talking to the guy too. So whatever, I understand him in that respect. So that's twice that he dumps her now. And then he says he spoke to her again because someone had it seemed like someone had passed away in her life or whatever. And then he's like, oh, let me go be a hero to this girl. Let me pick her up her spirits just so I could dump her when it seems like things are going well for her again. Like, oh, just when you think things are looking up, I'm going to peace out on your ass. Like, what is the psychology behind that? How self-important do you have to be to think that dating you is exactly what someone needs to get through the death of someone in their family? Like, oh, what? Your mom died? I better step in and date you. That's going to cheer you right on up. Oh, well, you seem over your mom's death. Peace out. Like, what a mess. Honestly, this guy, I can't wait to do a deep dive on him. I'm going to go back and watch every scene of his, like individually, just because he's so fascinating to me, but not in a good way. So now let's get into Aaliyah and some of the stuff that she was saying because Uche was speaking quite a lot. So she said that she found out that Lydia knew Uche was going to be on Love is Blind, and she then suspected that they were both in on her joining. And so that's why she became super duper paranoid, which I do think is a fair suspicion to have, especially when the person's ex is like trying so hard to be your friend and everything. It just feels all too convenient and creepy, right? And then she tells Uche that she regrets leaving him and that she wants to work on a relationship with the foundation that they built. And I'm like, girl, you ghosted that man when he was about to propose to you. The foundation has been like thrown to the ground and run over and pissed on. It no longer exists. So Uche tells Aaliyah that he loves her too, but his parents went through worse and never abandoned each other the way that she left him. So there's just no way, right? And I got to be honest, it sounds like Aaliyah has that same brand of potentially crazy that Lydia's got, because it turns out that after she left the experiment, she followed Uche on Instagram, then unfollowed and blocked him. Then she followed him again. And then on like WhatsApp or something, she sent him a vocal message, then deleted it before he can get out there and listen to it because he was still in the experiment, not knowing that she had ghosted him. It's just a lot, right? Like I knew it. I made a video called Aaliyah is immature, and like I said something about her being annoying and immature or something like that. So it's a video about how like she is just as nuts as Uche and Lydia are. Okay. Oh, I said Aaliyah is exhausting and immature. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already, because I'm not surprised she was doing all this because it's on par with her. She's a total drama queen. She's a lot to deal with. So now she keeps on blaming things on Lydia, why she left and whatnot. And Uche tells her to stop blaming things on Lydia because the real problem, in his opinion, is that Aaliyah didn't have confidence in him or their relationship. Let me just go back to Uche's point about his parents going through worse and whatnot and not leaving each other. To me, I get red flags whenever like people talk about their parents suffering in like marriages and relationship and how they feel like you should stick through suffrage and whatnot, because it's usually some BS. Okay, so to me, like Aaliyah, don't worry, this man would put you through some mess and think you have to put up with it just because his parents have put up with it too. Like, no, thank you. So Uche also says that it's over between him and Aaliyah, which I think is good because it's hard to come back from that level of abandonment. I think that was at least slightly traumatic for Uche. I will give him that. So then we get over into the engaged couples. It's time for Stacy to visit Izzy's apartment. And I gotta say, the apartment was actually like really nice. It looked like a good grade of apartment. It was decorated pretty decently. You could tell a woman decorated it, perhaps an ex-girlfriend. To be honest, I thought he was living under a bridge with the way that Johnny talked about his like credit and financial situation and the way that he was shaking when Stacy sat him down and talked about finances and retirement plans and whatnot, right? But it turns out that he's doing pretty decently, or at least it appears so, until he opens his cupboard. And you see that he's got a bunch of plastic plates, dishware cutlery, and like cups and stuff. And I'm like, Izzy, you're like 29. You're a sneeze away from 30. Why don't you have proper plates and cups and glasses? Solo cups? That is so trashy. Are you kidding me? This is how you're greeting people in your home? It's so wasteful too, especially like when we know with the climate crisis and whatnot. Why are you using a bunch of single-use plastic? It's really irresponsible. And I feel like in the long run, it's more expensive than just buying proper dishware, cutlery, glasses, and all that stuff. You know, I really didn't like that, to be honest with you. So that Stacy obviously had a problem with that. She didn't understand why he had that stuff. And I can't blame her. I would be turned off by that too. I'd be like, really? Like, what are you, a college student? Like, even college students have proper dishware. Like, it's just weird. So I get the ick that she was feeling. So then Izzy decides to make it a point to show Stacy a quote unquote lost and found featuring like jewelry and items from like other women that he's dated or banged or whatever. And I'm like, you're about to marry this girl. Like, she's your fiance and you think it's cute to be showing her this, that you get ran through or something, you get around. Like, what is it? I'm trying to use the expressions that men use on women because it's so funny in reverse, like, oh, wow, look at me. I have sex. How exciting is he? Like, it's just so lame. Obviously, Stacy found that to be really ridiculous because Izzy did have the opportunity to go back to that home and get rid of the stuff before her visit. And he chose to keep it there and make it a point to show her. So between the solo cups and this, I would be like, yeah, this guy is super immature. Okay. Now, let's get into Lydia and Milton hanging out with her family, shall we? First of all, I do think that Lydia's brother is low-key an op because I felt like he was trying to make her look slightly bad in front of Milton, like talking about how she's kind of like selfish or this or that. Like, I didn't love that. And I wouldn't do that to my brother or sister. I would just keep my mouth shut. My siblings are great and everything. I've got nice things to say about them. One of them, we had a little rocky relationship for a while, but it's good now. So I would just keep my mouth shut on that one if I didn't have anything nice to say. So I was kind of like, oh, where's the loyalty? Lydia's bro. But otherwise, it looked like a pretty good meeting overall. Like I think that Lydia's family accepted Milton at the end of the day, which is lovely for them and their potential union. Now, Stacy and Izzy then go back to hang out with her family after she visited his dorm room, and she really threw him under the bus to her family about the plastic plates and cups and stuff. I'm like, girl, I know it's a problem, but I wouldn't personally throw my man under the bus like that in front of my family. Like that probably made him feel really crappy. I'm sure he already felt like some kind of way, like when he pulled up to her house, like with the parents' house and stuff like that. So now you're like, look at this poor. I'm engaged to a poor or something like that. That probably makes him feel even smaller. By the way, Stacy girl, you are your father's twin. He spit that girl right on out. Jesus. So her dad at a certain point pulls Izzy aside to ask him how serious he is career wise, which I love. I always love like when you put certain expectations, like if you want to be with this woman, you want to be married and stuff, you better have your freaking life together. Like you better have a career, you better have something to offer. Like we're not effing around, and I really, really love that. And it doesn't sound like Izzy is very serious career wise. I was like, why are you even on this show? You don't have a proper career. So he was doing something like just some random job before. Then his friend is like, hey, why don't you get into like insurance sales? And this was a couple weeks before they started filming the show. So he starts trying out like the potential of a career in insurance sales for a couple of weeks before he goes, hey, there's an opportunity to be on TV and potentially get married. Let me jump and do that instead and take time off. Like to me, that's a red flag. It gives kind of like looking for attention, looking for TV time more so than serious husband material. Stacy is a very established woman and Izzy doesn't even have proper dishware at his house and he doesn't have like a proper amount of time in a real career. So I don't like it. I don't like him for her. I think she can do better. So now the rest of the cast all get together for a barbecue and then they start talking about JP and Taylor breaking up. Remember, JP had no personality and then he ultimately decided to blame the fact that he's got nothing going on between his ears on Taylor for wearing makeup when they met for 15 minutes during their big reveal. And then Carter's like, oh, Taylor didn't try hard enough. She's going to regret ending that relationship. If I had a daughter, I'd want her to be with JP. You know what, Chris? I hope you feel stupid now that you've watched, or Carter, I hope you feel stupid now that you've watched this back and seen how painfully wrong you are. It's always blamed on women whenever a relationship ends. Guys are always like, women file for 80% of divorces. Well, why are women filing for 80% of divorces? Who's the one stuck doing most of the cooking, cleaning, and child rearing? And then they eventually get sick of it and decide they're better off just doing it as single parents. You know what I mean? Like, stop. Always, always, always blaming it on women. And I hated that. And again, I hope Carter feels stupid now that he sees that the reason why this relationship didn't work out is because JP has literally no personality, refused to make conversation. And there was no point in Taylor continuing on there, especially when he started attacking her looks and accusing her of being fake and caked up and a bunch of other extreme things. Now, it also turns out, you guys, that Johnny and Chris are dating after they decided to split up in the pods. Listen, guys, I told you that I knew Chris had low self-esteem, so I'm not surprised that he ultimately decided to give Johnny a second chance after she chose, what's his face, Izzy over him. Listen, I don't think that Johnny is this terrible person that people want to make her out to be, especially Izzy and other people. I think, yeah, of course, she's made her fair share of mistakes and whatnot, but she's just a regular girl who happens to be a bit of a train wreck to me. But now Izzy decides to pull Johnny aside so that they can talk about their breakup and just like pod life together. And I don't know why Izzy feels like all these girls want him so badly and should be so sad that like he and his plastic cups dumped them, because he did this to Lydia as well. He's like, Lydia, let's talk. Yeah. It just sucked that I had to dump you. I broke up with you. Are you okay? Like, you're not crying, are you? Why aren't you crying? Like, he tried to do the same thing with Johnny. Like, he feels like he's more important than he is. And it's just so funny to me. Like, I got secondhand embarrassment for him. So like, for some reason, he's like, oh, Johnny, I heard that you were like saying shady. I heard you were shady. Everyone thinks that, like, you've been telling people a bunch of different stories. Izzy, I thought you were happily engaged. Like, why do you care about what was going on in the pod so long as she wasn't being malicious towards you? Johnny was not saying terrible things about you. There was no beef. Okay. So why did you go there all hot and bothered for her? Then he tells her that, and I really don't like the way that he told her everyone thinks she's sketchy, trying to like make this kind of like gang up mentality, like everyone hates you. Like that felt very, very mean and unnecessary and catty. And it shows he's not that happy in his engagement, and it shows. And you know what I think it is also a symptom of, because we used to see this with Brennan on what season was Brennan and Alexa? What is that? 3? He used to get emasculated by Alexa's dad. And then when he'd be around everybody else, that's when he takes out his like emasculated energy on them, notably Cole. And I think that that's what we're seeing with Izzy. He got sunned at Stacy's house when she was talking about, oh, like, do you have an R? What is that thing that you guys used to retire? Is that an RRSP or is that Canadian? I can't keep up. Do you have a retirement account? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have $20,000 in case the furnace goes out? He knew he didn't have none of that. That's why he was shaking and tearing up. And then when he gets to her father's house, the father's like, do you have a proper job? Can you afford this? Can you afford that? And then they were laughing about him having plastic cups and plastic plates. Like, he felt so humiliated and emasculated, and he decided to take that out on Johnny, is what I feel like. So and then like towards the end of his rampage against her, the really, really like aimless, reasonless rampage against her, he's like, oh, let me just give you some advice. I'm like, what advice? Let me give you some advice. Izzy, why don't you take your ass over to Marshall's and get some plates? Like, get yourself some proper dishware before you try to give anyone advice. And last a year in your career before you try to give her advice. Like, please, who do you think you are? Get over yourself. It's giving egotistical, and I really don't like it. And I felt bad for Johnny when she went crying to Chris about Izzy's nasty confrontation with her. Like, it wasn't fair to her at all. And then meanwhile, solo cup Izzy goes to Stacy like a little boy to his mommy, like, oh my God, I just attacked her so good, Stacy. I really bullied her. You should be so impressed. Meanwhile, Stacy was not really impressed. She's like, what happened? Like, why are you shaking? And I was like, I felt the secondhand embarrassment for Izzy when Stacy was like, why are you shaking? Like, you seem so shaken up. Like, what a flop. Like, he should be so damn embarrassed. I don't trust Izzy, you guys. I don't think he's here for the right reasons. He's not a genuine person, in my opinion. And he's a really mean person. Yeah, he smiles a lot, but he's actually a douchebag. And he thinks that women should be falling at his feet and crying over him. And it's not cool. Now, let's get to when things take a turn. Uche shows up to the big barbecue. Don, 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 don. The music gets a little somber, and he wastes literally no time pulling Lydia to the side. And so he does the sandwich, the attack sandwich. Start with a loaf of compliments, and then bam, shit talk. So that's what he does. He's like, Lydia, when I used to like be with you or date you, I just loved how you were so thoughtful. If I told you I like this drink, you would order it to my house. If I this, you would that. Like, you were just such a thoughtful person. And then later he's like, but you're a psycho. You're a stalker. He's like really just going in on the poor girl. And then they argue about whether or not he went through his things to find out that he was doing the show. And of course, he accuses her of doing that. She denies it. And it's just a huge back and forth mess. And one thing I really despised about this argument, if we could even call it that, because it was very much one way, because both Uche and Izzy, they both talk over women a lot. Like, they'll be speaking to women and then they'll just go on these rampages, blah, 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 and the woman will be like, can I respond to any of this? Can I have a chance to speak? They will not let you. And I find that disgusting in both of them. And I hope that they recognize that in themselves and fix it, because it's really nasty. So he just keeps going in on Lydia. He won't let her speak. And it was just really disgusting to watch. And like, when she would speak, he would speak over her. It was just too much. And again, the editing wasn't very good in this scene, because at a certain point Lydia gets really frustrated. She gets up and storms off, but then all of a sudden it cuts to Milton coming over and she's sitting calmly with Uche, and I'm like, when the hell did this happen? The girl, she just stormed off a second ago, so that was quite confusing. And Milton provided Lydia a good out. He's like, okay, Uche, well, listen, have your little convo, but she and I have something to do in 10 minutes. y'all know they had nothing to do in 10 minutes. They were stuck filming for the rest of the evening. Stop, but it was great that he even put that out there for her. And then at this point, Uche decides to pull out his phone to show Lydia, quote unquote, proof he has from girls, screenshots of them taking screenshots of her watching their stories. I'm like, who cares? Girls do that all the time. Like, it happens all the time. It's funny, when I was vacationing with my friends, we met like some guys, and one of them was like, a very good looking guy. And so my friend has an open Instagram. My personal one is locked. And so in her account, after the guy posted a picture with all of us and like tagged us, she started noticing like random girls she didn't know looking at her stories, and we're like laughing about it because it's so typical. It's just something that happens. Whenever my friends tag people and I see someone that looks fascinating or good looking or whatever, I'm going to creep on your profile, with my burner, but I'm going to creep. So then Uche brings up the text, the image that she had allegedly sent him, like, I can see you through the house or whatever. And Lydia's like, Uche, stop it. We were on the phone when I sent you that message. Like, it wasn't something you got out of the blue. And to me, that was kind of telling about like how far Uche is willing to go to paint Lydia in a bad light and to exaggerate things. Like, if you're just casually, but here's the thing. Why are you taking pictures while you're on the phone or driving by or this or that? It's too much distracted driving for me if that was happening. And then if you were on your way to his house, why did you need to take a picture of it anyway? It is weird, but I don't think it's as sinister as he wants us to believe that it is. Okay. Then he exposes her. She exposes him. She claims that he cheated on her in their relationship, and he doesn't deny it or defend himself. It kind of just ends there, the episode. So I don't know whether or not we're going to like pick up and see how that happens, but that basically is it, the end of episode 7. And then we do see a conversation between Uche and Milton where he's trying to warn Milton against Lydia again, like, she's a stalker, she won't let me go, she did this show to get closer to me, just a bunch of stuff. And I don't know, I just find Uche to be a dark cloud. Like, he's just so like, oh, like so negative, so complaining about women and just all this stuff. Like, I just don't like his energy at all. But listen, he's still got a couple episodes to turn it around. Who knows, maybe even after the altar or the reunion, we will get more context. He did put out a series of statements about how things wound up going with Aaliyah off camera or on camera that wasn't shown. I don't remember which, that we will get into because it does show a pattern of him and his breakup to makeup and toxic relationship cycles and a bunch of other stuff as well. So if you haven't already, do make sure to subscribe for more Love is Blind recaps and news and tea. Okay, that's all, guys. See you next time. Bye.